My sister Ashley bullied me for years, with Dad backing her even after she tried to pour bleach in my shampoo and faked a suicide note in my handwriting. One day I snapped, using her own tricks against her, staging a family intervention that ended up taking everything from her. Some wounds cut so deep they change the very core of who you are. For years I lived under a shadow of pure, unadulterated hatred from my own sister, Ashley. A hatred so profound it almost cost me my life. And the day she tried to blind me, that's when everything shattered, and my mother finally saw the monster she'd been ignoring. Growing up, Ashley always hated me, and for the life of me I couldn't understand why. I was the loud one, the one who tripped over her own feet and laughed it off, completely unbothered. Ashley? She was the quiet bookworm, effortlessly acing every class, the golden child. Especially to our dad. He treated her like royalty, cooking her favorite meals, doing her laundry, while I was always roped into helping her with homework because we're family. Funny how that never applied to her helping me. I guess I'm partly to blame, I always just gave in. But then things got dark. She started weaponizing our differences, twisting them into insults. Fat, she'd sneer. When I didn't crumble, she got creative. She'd sneak into my room, rifle through my phone, desperate to find anything she could twist and report to Dad. And when I went to our parents begging for help, they just laughed. Laughed it off. Harmless sibling stuff, they'd say, even asking her what dirt she dug up, completely backing her play. The big secret? A text from a guy about homework. I stopped feeling safe in my own home. Ashley's attacks escalated. Before big soccer games, my gear would vanish. My lunches? A daily gamble. I still remember finding crushed eggshells in my sandwich. Luckily, I saw them before I took a bite. When I told Dad, he just shrugged. Sisters being sisters. You weren't hurt, so get over it. Not hurt. My stomach churned. Then came the school bullies. A group of girls started tormenting me. For a fleeting second, a stupid, desperate hope flared up. Maybe Ashley would finally see what was happening. Maybe she'd tell our parents. Instead, she joined them. Fat loser. Dumb jock. Total disappointment. The words followed me everywhere. I hit rock bottom, struggling to find any reason to keep going. During a meaningless fight, she looked me dead in the eye and said I should just end my life. She blamed me for every single problem in her perfect world. Hearing my own sister wish me dead. It was the most excruciating pain I'd ever felt. Mom was always working late, and Dad? He screamed at me, convinced I must have provoked her. But 10th grade. That's when things truly turned terrifying. I got out of the shower and immediately recoiled. A harsh chemical smell. Ashley had tried to pour bleach into my shampoo bottle. If I hadn't noticed, I could have ended up in the hospital. Blinded. And Dad's reaction? She was just pranking you. A prank that could have blinded me. That was the last straw for Mom. She finally exploded, confronting Dad, her voice laced with fury. This isn't a prank. This could have blinded her. She threatened to call the police if Ashley didn't stop. For the first time in her life, Ashley faced a real consequence. She stood there, frozen, utterly shocked, unable to even start her usual fake crying routine. Later, Mom came to my room. She sat on my bed, her eyes brimming with tears. She admitted she'd spent years hoping Ashley would grow out of it. But now she realized her daughter was becoming a truly nasty person. As I finally let out years of silent sobs, she stroked my hair, apologizing for not making our house feel like a home. I poured out everything, years of torment, the school bullying, the crushing weight of it all. Her face drained of color. She didn't say a word, just pulled me into a tight, desperate hug. The next day, Mom met with the principal, ensuring the bullying at school would finally stop. That evening, she signed me up for kickboxing classes. You need to learn how to stand up for yourself, she said, against all the bullies in your life. I was a jock, but I was insecure. Learning to fight felt strange, but I was dedicated. I had a feeling it would come in handy, and one day it did. I walked out of the shower and caught Ashley, already halfway out my bedroom door, her friends waiting. She had my babysitting money, weeks of savings. Give it back, I demanded. Ashley just laughed, a cruel, dismissive sound. Go cry to Mommy. Usually that's exactly what I would have done. But this time something inside me snapped. All the sadness, all the years of pain, it solidified into pure volcanic anger. I swung my fist, putting every ounce of kickboxing training Mom had paid for into it. It connected hard squarely with Ashley's jaw. The sound echoed through the hallway. She stumbled backward, dropping my crumpled bills onto the floor. Her friends gasped, phones already out, recording. Ashley's hand flew to her face, eyes wide with genuine shock. I'd actually hit her. She lunged, screaming like a banshee, her perfectly manicured nails aimed for my face. But muscle memory kicked in. I deflected her wild swings, used her momentum, and pinned her against the wall, my forearm across her shoulders. Her friends kept filming, some giggling nervously, others genuinely scared. Ashley's perfect image was cracking, right in front of them. Heavy footsteps thundered up the stairs. Dad burst into the hallway, face red with fury, yelling at me to let her go. But Mom appeared in the doorway behind him, planting herself firmly between us, arms crossed. The words that came out of her mouth made everyone freeze. This time, I'm not backing down. As the family drama unfolded, I caught movement from the corner of my eye. Megan, one of Ashley's closest friends, quietly bent down and slipped my money into her pocket. Our eyes met for a split second. I could have called her out, but Ashley was thrashing against my hold, screaming for Dad to intervene. I had bigger problems. Mom turned to Ashley's friends, her voice deadly calm. You have 30 seconds to leave my house before I call each of your parents personally. The girls exchanged nervous glances, phones still up. Mom started counting. By 20, they were scrambling for the stairs, still recording as they fled. Dad rushed to comfort Ashley the moment I released her. He reached out to touch her face, but she shoved him away violently. You ruined everything, she shrieked. My life is over. Everyone will see. Dad stood there, looking utterly confused, unable to comprehend why his precious daughter was rejecting his comfort. Ashley stormed to her room, but not before shooting me a look of pure, concentrated hatred. In the chaos, Ashley's designer bag had fallen. As I bent to grab my money, a sleek, expensive leather journal tumbled out. It fell open and my blood ran cold. There, in Ashley's neat handwriting, were detailed plans. Lists with my name at the top. Ways to break me. Methods to destroy me. And at the bottom of one page, a drafted suicide note. In my handwriting. Or, at least, a terrifyingly accurate imitation of it. Mom walked into my room just as I was reading it. She took one look at my face, snatched the notebook. Her eyes scanned the pages, all color draining from her face, her hand trembling. She sank onto my bed, flipping through page after page of Ashley's documented campaign against me. The fake suicide note made her gasp. She looked at me, tears in her eyes, finally understanding how close we'd come to something irreversible. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again. And again. Ashley had already started her counterattack. She'd sent edited clips of our fight to everyone at school, including my ex-boyfriend. The videos were cut to make it look like I'd attacked her unprovoked. Her caption claimed I was violent and unstable, that she was terrified of her own sister. My ex had already shared it with his friends. 3 girls from my soccer team texted warnings simultaneously. They were at a party, and Ashley's video was spreading like wildfire. People were already taking sides. My teammate Vicky tried to defend me but was shouted down by Ashley's supporters. Mom, still reeling from the notebook, pulled out her phone. She started photographing every single page, meticulously documenting Ashley's plans. Dad appeared, demanding to know what was going on. He reached for the notebook but Mom clutched it tighter. You need to see what your perfect daughter has been planning, she said, her voice shaking with rage. The evidence had legal implications but Mom wasn't thinking about that. Another text. This one made me freeze. It was from Jenna, Ashley's best friend since middle school. The message was simple but loaded. Your sister is seriously messed up. We need to talk. Coming from Ashley's closest ally, those words felt like a lifeline. Dad followed Mom to their bedroom, his voice growing louder with each step, demanding she apologize to Ashley for taking my side. Mom's response? She walked into their room and locked the door in his face. I could hear him pounding, yelling about how unreasonable she was, how Ashley was the real victim. Mom didn't respond. Later I found Dad in the kitchen, fumbling with his phone. He'd left it unlocked on the counter. A notification popped up from Ashley. My stomach turned as I read it. She was referencing behavioral reports about me that went back years, reports I'd never known existed. The realization hit me like a truck. Dad hadn't just enabled her recent behavior. He'd been actively helping her build a case against me for years. The next morning at school was brutal. Ashley had posted her edited video on Instagram with a carefully crafted caption about being attacked for no reason. The comments were flooded with sympathy for her, disgust toward me. People who didn't even know us were weighing in. Ashley knew how to play the victim, and she was doing it masterfully. My soccer coach pulled me aside, concerned about anger management issues, implying my starting position was in jeopardy. I tried to file a complaint with the school counselor. Useless. The counselor was Dad's cousin and dismissed my concerns immediately. Ashley would never hurt anyone, she insisted. Just sibling rivalry. She'd known Ashley since she was little, she said, and couldn't believe she was capable of what I was describing. After school, I decided to follow Ashley. Keeping my distance, I watched her meet up with a group of girls, some of the same bullies who'd tormented me. They huddled, planning. I caught fragments of conversation. My locker. Teach her a lesson. Ashley was orchestrating something bigger. At home, I went straight to Ashley's room, looking for more evidence for my stolen things. And I found something else. Mom's credit card hidden in Ashley's jewelry box. When Mom got home, I showed her. She checked her statements online and discovered thousands of dollars in unauthorized purchases over the past few months. Expensive clothes, electronics, makeup. Then Mom's coworker, Catherine, called, mentioning she'd seen Ashley at the mall, during school hours, carrying multiple high-end shopping bags. The pieces clicked into place. Ashley wasn't just tormenting me, she was stealing from her own mother. Over the next few days, I watched Ashley. Her pattern was clear. She kept her friend groups completely separated, telling different stories to each. To some, she was the victim of an abusive sister. To others, she was the protective older sibling trying to help me. She crafted her narrative to what each group wanted to hear, ensuring no one ever compared notes. Jenna finally agreed to meet me at a coffee shop downtown. She looked terrified, constantly checking over her shoulder. Ashley had been threatening her, she revealed. There was something Ashley didn't want getting out, and she'd made it clear Jenna would pay if she talked. Jenna was scared. Ashley was escalating. At kickboxing, my instructor, Nathan, noticed bruises on my arms. He asked careful questions. As a mandated reporter, he had obligations. I deflected, saying they were from practice. He didn't look convinced. It felt strange, having an adult outside our family actually see something was wrong. That evening, Ashley tried a new tactic. She told Mom I'd been stealing money from her for months, complete with fake tears and a trembling voice. But Mom had seen the credit card statements. She'd read the notebook. She wasn't buying Ashley's act anymore. The look of pure shock on Ashley's face when Mom didn't immediately take her side was priceless. Dad's sister texted Mom that night, concerned about the video. She admitted she'd noticed troubling behavior from Ashley before, but hadn't wanted to interfere. She recounted specific incidents at family gatherings where Ashley had been cruel to me while Dad looked the other way. Finally, someone else in the family was acknowledging the truth. Ashley started dating Jake from my chemistry class the following week, making sure to parade their new relationship right in front of me during lunch. I recognized the pattern immediately. The same love bombing she used on Dad, showering Jake with attention while subtly isolating him from his friends. When I tried warning Jake, he brushed off my concerns, already under her spell. His dismissive attitude showed how quickly Ashley could manipulate people who didn't know her true nature. Megan approached me at the gas station that weekend. Glancing around nervously, she slid into my car. She returned the money she'd taken from the hallway, her hands trembling as she explained Ashley had been blackmailing her for months with embarrassing photos from a sleepover. The revelation that Ashley had multiple victims beyond me made my stomach churn. Megan showed me threatening messages, carefully worded to avoid explicit threats, while making the consequences brutally clear. Mom's friend noticed something disturbing online. Ashley had been tracking my activities using a fake account. She immediately called Mom, who confronted me. Together, we discovered the profile Ashley used to monitor not just me, but several other students. Megan helped, showing me posts where Ashley had screenshotted private conversations and shared them with twisted commentary. I documented everything, building our own evidence file. The school counselor called our house after receiving multiple reports about the viral video. Dad answered and immediately downplayed the situation, calling it typical sibling rivalry. I watched from the kitchen as he laughed off the counselor's concerns, assuring her everything was fine. His casual dismissal of documented evidence made my hands clench into fists. The counselor, being his cousin, accepted his explanation without question. 3 different classmates approached me separately over the next few days, each sharing their own stories of Ashley's manipulation. One girl revealed Ashley had spread rumors until she transferred schools. Another showed me old text messages where Ashley had threatened to expose secrets unless she did her homework. A pattern emerged. Ashley targeted people she perceived as threats or those who had something she wanted. Each victim had suffered in isolation, unaware others shared their experience. Late one night, I searched through Ashley's social media history going back years. The breadcrumb trail of destroyed friendships and cryptic posts about fake friends painted a clear picture. Screenshots of conversations showed how she'd turned people against each other, always positioning herself as the innocent party. Comments from former friends hinted at betrayals, though most were too afraid to be explicit. One former best friend from middle school had blocked Ashley on everything after some unnamed incident. That same girl contacted me through a mutual friend, warning that Ashley had destroyed her life in 8th grade, and to be extremely careful. She wouldn't provide details, saying she'd moved on, but her fear was palpable even through text messages. She mentioned something about photos and rumors that had followed her to high school, forcing her family to eventually relocate. Her warning chilled me. Ashley had been perfecting her tactics for years. I finally confronted Ashley in the school bathroom about her fake social media account. My calm demeanor as I laid out the evidence seemed to unnerve her more than anger would have. She flew into a rage, screaming accusations and threats, not realizing another student was in a stall recording everything. Her mask slipped completely as she admitted to watching me, claiming she had to protect herself from my jealousy. The witness later shared the recording with me, providing more proof of Ashley's unstable behavior. Mom gave Dad an ultimatum during a tense kitchen confrontation: acknowledge Ashley's abuse and get her help, or their marriage was over. The deadline was set for their upcoming family therapy session that Friday. Dad's face cycled through disbelief, anger, and something that might have been fear. He tried to argue, but Mom stood firm, backed by the mountain of evidence she'd compiled. She'd even consulted with a divorce attorney, showing him she meant business. Jake texted me that night with a shocking revelation. Ashley had tried to convince him to plant substances in my locker, claiming it would be a harmless prank to teach me a lesson. He'd refused and broken up with her on the spot, disturbed by her casual suggestion of something that could ruin my future. His message included screenshots of her texts, trying to manipulate him, each one more desperate than the last. Her escalation to potential criminal acts marked a dangerous new phase. Dad caught Ashley in a blatant lie the next morning when she claimed I'd threatened her at school. He'd driven by and seen me at soccer practice during the alleged incident. His face showed the first crack of doubt as he struggled to reconcile what he'd witnessed with Ashley's tears. Still, he made excuses, suggesting she must have been confused about the time. His mental gymnastics to avoid accepting the truth would have been funny if it weren't so pathetic. Ashley approached me with a fake reconciliation offer. She'd stop everything if I took the blame for our conflicts and publicly apologized. Dad pressured me to accept, calling it a mature solution. I refused, standing my ground despite his disappointment. The proposal revealed Ashley's desperation to maintain her victim narrative, as her web of lies began unraveling. Dad's eagerness to accept this solution showed he still prioritized Ashley's comfort over my safety. Mom's sister arrived unexpectedly after receiving an SOS text from Mom. She took one look at our family dynamic during dinner and immediately understood. Her outside perspective and unwavering support for Mom shifted the power balance. She called out Dad's enabling behavior directly, something no one else had dared to do. Her presence meant Mom was no longer fighting alone, and Ashley couldn't manipulate the situation as easily. Jenna revealed the full extent of Ashley's predatory behavior during another secret meeting. Ashley had been using explicit photos of Megan to control not just her, but several other students who feared their own secrets being exposed. The timeline showed months of calculated exploitation. Jenna provided dates and details, showing how Ashley would befriend vulnerable people, gather compromising information, then use it for control. The pattern was sophisticated for a high school student, but matched the personality traits Mom's therapist friend had identified. I realized Ashley's power came from two sources: Dad's protection and her victim's isolation. Most people had no idea about the pattern because she kept each situation separate. Her different friend groups never interacted. Her victims never compared notes, and Dad's dismissal of any complaints shut down official channels. Breaking this isolation became my focus. If victims knew they weren't alone, Ashley's power would crumble. Mom discovered Ashley had been intercepting mail when she found my acceptance letter to an elite soccer camp, hidden in Ashley's room. The letter was months old. I'd missed the registration deadline because I never knew I'd been accepted. Mom also found other pieces of my mail, including birthday cards with money from relatives and a scholarship opportunity notification. The deliberate sabotage of my future revealed a calculated cruelty beyond simple sibling rivalry. My best friend from the soccer team risked Ashley's retaliation by publicly supporting me on social media. She posted about witnessing Ashley's bullying and called out the people believing the edited video. Others began following her lead, sharing their own observations. The tide of public opinion slowly shifted as more people felt safe speaking up. Ashley's carefully crafted image cracked under the weight of multiple testimonies. Mom and I grew closer through our shared acknowledgement of Ashley's abuse. We had coffee dates where we'd talk honestly about the family dynamics and how we'd both been affected. She admitted to years of guilt about not protecting me sooner, while I shared the full extent of what I'd endured. These conversations rebuilt trust and created a united front. Mom started seeing her own therapist to process her enabling role and plan for the future. Despite having ammunition to destroy Ashley's reputation completely, I chose to focus on protecting other victims rather than revenge. I created a private support group for those affected by her manipulation, providing a safe space to share experiences and heal. The group grew quickly as word spread quietly. We compiled documentation not for retaliation, but for protection, ensuring Ashley couldn't gaslight anyone about past events. Ashley cornered me in the garage one afternoon, trying to intimidate me into backing down. Instead of reacting emotionally, I calmly asked questions that forced her to contradict herself. My refusal to engage in her drama seemed to destabilize her. She couldn't handle someone who wouldn't play her games. Her lies unraveled, and her frustration at losing control became increasingly obvious. Mom's therapist friend unofficially reviewed the patterns documented in Ashley's notebook during a restaurant meeting. She confirmed the concerning personality traits, but emphasized she couldn't make an official diagnosis without proper evaluation. Her insights helped Mom understand that Ashley's behavior went beyond typical teenage mean girl actions. The therapist recommended immediate intervention and warned that without treatment, Ashley's behaviors would likely escalate in adulthood. Both Dad's sister and brother expressed concerns to him about Ashley after family members started sharing stories. His defense of her began sounding hollow even to himself as the evidence mounted. He couldn't dismiss everyone as jealous or misunderstanding. The family pressure created cracks in his denial, though he still resisted accepting the full truth. Their intervention showed that Mom and I weren't alone. More students came forward with their Ashley stories. As word spread about our support group, the individual incidents formed a clear pattern spanning years. Teachers began noticing the shift, several quietly expressing support for me. My improved confidence as the truth came out was apparent in my academic performance and sports participation. No longer living in constant fear of Ashley's next attack, I could focus on my own growth. Mom connected with other parents whose children had been hurt by Ashley, forming an informal support network through group texts. These parents shared resources and validated each other's experiences. Some had tried reporting Ashley's behavior before, but were dismissed due to Dad's influence. Together, they had more credibility and couldn't be easily silenced. The network also helped identify patterns. Ashley often chose victims whose parents were single, busy, or unlikely to be believed. When I directly asked Dad why he enabled Ashley, his non-answer revealed deep-rooted issues. He rambled about not wanting to disappoint his parents, how Ashley reminded him of his deceased mother, and his fear of conflict. His own childhood trauma had created blind spots he refused to examine. Understanding his motivations didn't excuse his behavior, but explained why he clung so desperately to the fantasy of Ashley as his perfect daughter. My soccer teammates rallied around me after seeing evidence of Ashley's harassment. They publicly defended me at school, making it clear that believing Ashley's lies meant opposing the entire team. Athletes from other sports joined the show of solidarity. Ashley's reputation cracked under the pressure of collective opposition. She could manipulate individuals, but not entire teams who'd witnessed her behavior firsthand. As friend groups learned about Ashley's blackmail schemes, her social options narrowed dramatically. People who'd previously feared her now avoided her entirely. Her desperate attempts to maintain control included increasingly reckless threats and promises. She offered rewards for information about the support group and threatened consequences for those who defended me. Her escalating behavior showed someone losing grip on their carefully constructed world. Mom's investigation into old school records revealed Ashley had written threatening content about me in notebooks dating back to elementary school. Hidden among normal teenage angst were detailed fantasies about bad things happening to me and plans to ensure I'd never succeed at anything. The long-term documentation proved this wasn't a phase or recent development, but a persistent pattern of targeted hatred. Teachers who remembered us confirmed that Ashley's animosity had always seemed disproportionate and concerning. I spent time warning Megan about Ashley's escalation patterns, helping her protect herself while we pursued resolution. We changed her passwords, documented all threats, and created safety plans for school. Teaching others to protect themselves felt more productive than seeking revenge. Each person who learned to recognize and counter Ashley's tactics reduced her power. The network of informed potential victims became a shield against future manipulation. 7 students met at my house while our parents worked, sharing experiences and evidence about Ashley. The meeting wasn't about plotting revenge, but understanding patterns and healing from trauma. We discovered Ashley used similar tactics on everyone: isolation, blackmail, gaslighting, and playing victim when confronted. Recognizing these patterns helped victims realize they weren't crazy or overreacting. The validation of shared experiences began undoing years of psychological damage. Ashley's attempt to seduce my kickboxing instructor to get me banned from the gym backfired spectacularly. Nathan immediately informed both me and Mom about her inappropriate advances and manipulative tactics. He'd recorded their conversation for his own protection, having sensed something off about her approach. His professionalism and integrity provided another adult witness to Ashley's disturbing behavior patterns. Dad witnessed Ashley destroying my soccer trophy in a fit of rage after learning about the support group. He stood frozen in the doorway as she smashed it with a hammer, screaming about how I'd ruined everything. The naked hatred on her face as she destroyed something I'd worked years to earn couldn't be rationalized as sibling rivalry. He tried to process what he'd seen, but cognitive dissonance still prevented full acceptance. His weak attempt to suggest I must have provoked her fell flat, even to his own ears. Teachers began offering subtle support as news of Ashley's behavior spread through faculty conversations. They couldn't officially take sides but made sure I knew they saw the truth. My English teacher mentioned how my writing had improved since I'd stopped seeming so stressed. The coach from another team offered to write recommendation letters for college, noting my leadership in difficult circumstances. These small gestures meant everything when institutional support had wavered. The group compiled a master document of Ashley's crimes with dates, witnesses, and evidence. The pattern was undeniable when laid out chronologically. We organized everything carefully, not for legal action, but for protection and validation. Having concrete documentation prevented gaslighting and provided clarity about the scope of abuse. The project also revealed how Ashley had refined her techniques over time, learning from what worked and abandoning methods that got her caught. The day of the family therapy session arrived, with Mom's ultimatum hanging heavy in the air. She made it clear Dad had to acknowledge Ashley's abuse today or face divorce proceedings. The stakes couldn't be higher. I watched Dad wrestle with his choice, torn between his delusions and his marriage. Mom had already packed a bag and made arrangements to stay with her sister if needed. This wasn't a bluff and everyone knew it. During the session, Ashley's mask slipped when the therapist asked probing questions about specific incidents. Unable to maintain her victim act under professional scrutiny, she admitted to testing my limits to see how much I could take. The therapist's careful questions revealed more than Ashley intended, exposing the calculated nature of her actions. Her attempts to minimize her behavior as normal sibling conflict fell apart under examination. The therapist recommended immediate intervention for Ashley and separation between us for everyone's safety. She outlined the serious nature of the documented behaviors and their potential escalation without treatment. The professional validation of what Mom and I had been saying for months hit Dad hard. He couldn't dismiss a licensed therapist as easily as he dismissed us. The stakes crystallized. This wasn't about sibling rivalry, but preventing serious psychological harm. I handled the session with maturity, stating facts without vindictiveness or emotional manipulation. The therapist noted my emotional growth despite the trauma, commenting on my resilience and empathy. My calm recitation of events contrasted sharply with Ashley's emotional outbursts and attempts to derail the conversation. The therapist's observations about family dynamics placed responsibility squarely on the adults who enabled the situation. Dad finally admitted Ashley needed help, but still tried to minimize the severity, suggesting outpatient therapy would suffice. Mom's response was firm. It wasn't enough. She demanded intensive treatment and concrete changes, not more empty promises. The therapist supported Mom's position, explaining that Ashley's behaviors required more than weekly sessions. Dad's attempt to negotiate a middle ground that preserved his comfort zone failed against professional recommendations and Mom's resolve. Extended family group chats exploded with support for me, as Mom shared the truth about our situation. Relatives who'd noticed odd dynamics at family gatherings finally had context for their observations. Stories emerged about Ashley's behavior at family events. Small cruelties they dismissed as teenage moodiness now seen as part of a pattern. The family rallying around me and Mom further isolated Dad in his denial. Ashley's remaining friends distanced themselves after therapy revelations spread through whisper networks. Even those who'd enjoyed her drama and manipulation didn't want to be associated with someone receiving intensive therapy recommendations. Her social isolation increased daily as former allies quietly switched sides or simply disappeared. The loss of her audience and enablers left her increasingly desperate and unstable. Ashley attempted one last manipulation with Dad, crying and promising to change if he'd just protect her from consequences. His visible wavering showed he hadn't fully accepted reality despite everything. The familiar pattern of tears and promises had worked for years, and Ashley knew exactly which buttons to push. Mom physically stepped between them, refusing to let him comfort Ashley while I stood there watching. She forced him to see my pain instead of focusing solely on Ashley's tears. Dad finally broke down when confronted with the full weight of evidence and the therapist's assessment. Years of enabling crashed down as he realized his role in creating the situation. His tears seemed genuine as he faced how his favoritism had allowed Ashley to torment me while he looked away. The breakdown marked a potential turning point, though whether he'd follow through with real change remained to be seen. His acknowledgement of failure was the first step toward possible healing. Ashley faced natural consequences as news reached the scholarship committee for the prestigious academic program she'd applied to. Multiple reports of bullying behavior and the therapy recommendations led to her scholarship being revoked. The loss of this opportunity she'd worked toward for years was entirely self-inflicted. No family connections or manipulation could undo the damage to her reputation. The committee's decision showed that actions have consequences, even for those who'd previously seemed untouchable. My support network solidified into regular gatherings at rotating houses, creating a healing community for Ashley's victims. We shared coping strategies and celebrated small victories as we reclaimed our lives. The group evolved from trauma bonding to genuine friendship as we supported each other's growth. Some members started therapy, others found strength in athletics or arts, but everyone moved forward. Ashley had inadvertently created a support system stronger than any individual could build alone. Grandparents arrived after Mom's call, explaining the family crisis. They took one look at the dynamics and immediately sided with Mom and me. Their outside perspective and life experience cut through Dad's excuses and Ashley's manipulations. Grandma particularly saw through Ashley's acts, commenting that she reminded her of a relative who'd caused similar family destruction. Their arrival shifted family power dynamics significantly, providing crucial support when we needed it most. Armed with printed documentation, Mom presented Dad with evidence of Ashley's systematic abuse, organized in a binder. Page after page showed patterns, escalation, and calculated cruelty spanning years. He couldn't skim or dismiss physical evidence the way he'd ignored verbal reports. Each page forced him to confront his willful blindness. Mom's methodical presentation left no room for denial or minimization. The weight of compiled evidence was overwhelming. Dad wept as he read Ashley's own words about destroying me, finally understanding the depth of hatred he'd enabled. The forged suicide note draft particularly shattered him as he realized how close we'd come to tragedy. His tears seemed to release years of suppressed knowledge he'd refused to consciously acknowledge. Reading Ashley's detailed plans in her own handwriting broke through his last defenses. The man who'd protected Ashley at all costs finally saw what he'd been protecting. The impromptu family meeting at Grandpa's house turned into a reckoning. Ashley's former victims sat in the living room, each holding documentation of her blackmail and threats. One by one, they presented their evidence to the assembled family members. The girl who transferred schools showed text messages dating back 3 years. Another victim revealed Ashley had threatened to leak doctored photos. Each testimony built upon the last, creating an undeniable pattern of predatory behavior that even Dad couldn't rationalize away. I pulled out my old journals from the basement storage, pages filled with entries documenting years of Ashley's torment. Mom's hands shook as she read entries from when I was 12, describing how Ashley had convinced me I was worthless. The timeline validated everything. The escalation from verbal abuse to physical threats to elaborate psychological warfare. Each page provided another piece of the puzzle, showing how Ashley's hatred had festered and grown more sophisticated over time. The family meeting reached its climax when Ashley's notebook was presented as final evidence. Grandma read aloud the detailed plans to break me, her voice growing harder with each word. The forged suicide note draft made several relatives gasp. Uncle Tom, who'd always defended Ashley, went pale, seeing her handwriting outlining ways to make my death look self-inflicted. The room fell silent as the full scope of premeditated harm became undeniable. Grandparents made their position clear. Ashley was no longer welcome in their home until she received serious psychological help. They'd seen enough manipulation and wouldn't enable it further. Grandpa, usually soft-spoken, stood firm against Dad's weak protests. The elderly couple's unwavering support shifted the family dynamic permanently. Other relatives followed their lead, establishing boundaries they'd been too afraid to set before. Ashley exploded at the intervention, her mask completely shattered. She screamed threats about destroying everyone who'd betrayed her, naming specific secrets she'd use against each person. Her rage-filled tirade only proved what we'd been saying about her instability. Family members exchanged shocked looks as she revealed just how much dirt she'd collected on everyone, confirming her pattern of gathering ammunition for future manipulation. In her fury, Ashley grabbed car keys from the counter and fled the meeting. She peeled out of the driveway, nearly hitting Grandpa's mailbox. Her departure left everyone stunned, but also relieved. Within minutes, threatening texts flooded the family group chat. She promised to ruin careers, destroy marriages, and expose every secret she knew. Each message grew more unhinged, documenting her spiral in real time. Dad's resolve crumbled watching Ashley's meltdown. He suggested we'd pushed her too hard, that maybe backing off would calm her down. His enabler instincts kicked in despite everything he'd witnessed. Mom shut down his excuses immediately, reminding him that appeasing Ashley had created this monster. The other family members backed Mom, refusing to let Dad minimize the situation again. Mom packed our bags that night, deciding we'd stay with grandparents until the situation stabilized. She made it clear to Dad he could choose between getting Ashley help or losing his family. There would be no middle ground. No more negotiations. I watched him struggle with the ultimatum, torn between his codependent relationship with Ashley and his marriage. Mom didn't wait for his decision, loading our essentials into her car. At Grandpa's house, I made a decision that would change everything. I wrote a detailed post about my experience with Ashley, warning others about the signs of sibling abuse. The post included general patterns without naming her directly, focusing on helping other victims recognize manipulation tactics. I knew Ashley would see it as an attack, but staying silent meant enabling her to hurt others. My hands trembled as I hit publish, knowing there would be consequences. The post spread through local social media faster than I'd anticipated. Within hours, comments poured in from other students sharing similar experiences with Ashley. The pattern of victims expanded beyond what even I had known. People I'd never met described encounters that matched Ashley's tactics perfectly. Each story validated the others, creating an avalanche of truth that couldn't be stopped. Ashley's response was swift and vicious. She created multiple fake accounts to attack anyone who'd commented on my post. She threatened lawsuits, promised to destroy reputations, and made increasingly wild accusations. Her desperation showed in the frantic pace of her posts, sometimes contradicting herself within minutes. The manic energy of her counterattack only reinforced the image of instability. More victims emerged from the shadows as the online discussion grew. A girl from Ashley's old dance class revealed blackmail from 5 years ago. Someone from summer camp shared how Ashley had isolated and tormented them. The stories spanned different schools, activities, and social circles, showing how Ashley had perfected her predatory behavior across multiple environments. Each revelation added another layer to the pattern. Dad called Mom repeatedly, begging her to make me delete the post. He claimed it was destroying Ashley's future, that we were being cruel. Mom refused to budge, pointing out that Ashley had destroyed multiple futures without consequence. His calls grew more desperate as Ashley's world crumbled, but Mom stopped answering. She'd given him his choice, and his priorities were clear. Ashley returned home 3 days later, demanding I remove everything online. She showed up at Grandpa's house with Dad, who looked haggard and defeated. The entire extended family happened to be there for Sunday dinner, creating an unexpected intervention scenario. Ashley alternated between threats and playing victim, trying every manipulation in her arsenal. The family watched her performance with knowing eyes, immune to her tactics now. She pulled out her phone, revealing she'd been recording family conversations recently. Her plan to use these recordings as leverage backfired immediately when cousin Marcus, who worked in tech, explained that recordings made without consent were inadmissible and illegal in our state. Ashley's face went white as her final card crumbled. The family's tech-savvy members had already researched the legal implications, prepared for exactly this scenario. The moment of truth arrived when I had to decide whether to pursue criminal charges for assault and blackmail. The evidence was overwhelming. Multiple victims, documented threats, the physical attack on video. The prosecutor said we had a strong case that could result in serious consequences for Ashley. I struggled with the weight of potentially giving my sister a criminal record that would follow her forever. After sleepless nights and long discussions with Mom and my support group, I chose a different path. Instead of prosecution, I demanded Ashley enter an intensive therapy program with regular progress reports to the court. If she refused or quit, criminal charges would proceed. It wasn't mercy exactly. It was recognition that a criminal record would destroy any chance of Ashley getting better. The decision cost me emotionally, knowing some victims wanted harsher consequences. Ashley had no choice but to sign the behavioral contract. The terms were strict: intensive therapy, no contact with victims, regular psychological evaluations, and immediate prosecution if she violated any condition. She signed with shaking hands, seething with barely contained rage. The legal documentation meant she couldn't manipulate her way out this time. Every adult in the room witnessed her agreement. Dad finally found his spine during the contract signing. He told Ashley she needed help, and that he'd failed her by enabling her behavior for so long. His words seemed to shock Ashley more than anything else. She'd lost her biggest enabler, her most reliable shield against consequences. Dad's acknowledgement of his role, however late, marked a crucial shift in family dynamics. Ashley tried one last manipulation, claiming she felt suicidal and needed immediate hospitalization instead of outpatient therapy. The therapist present for the contract signing conducted an evaluation via video call. She saw through Ashley's tactic immediately, noting the difference between genuine crisis and manipulative threats. Ashley's plan to avoid accountability through false crisis failed under professional scrutiny. The family enforced a complete no-contact order between Ashley and me until therapy showed significant progress. She would live with Dad while attending treatment, but I wouldn't have to see or interact with her. The separation felt like breathing freely for the first time in years. Other victims received similar protection orders, creating a network of safety that Ashley couldn't penetrate. Ashley entered the intensive therapy program the following week, finally admitting she might have some issues, the closest she'd come to accountability. The program specialized in personality disorders and required complete honesty for progress. Her therapists were experienced with manipulation and wouldn't be fooled by her usual tactics. The first step toward change had been forced, but it was still a step. Dad started his own therapy to address his enabling patterns. He joined a support group for parents of children with behavioral issues, finally acknowledging his role in creating the situation. His journey would be long and difficult, unpacking years of dysfunction and favoritism. Mom agreed to couples counseling once he showed genuine progress in individual therapy. I returned to school surrounded by a stronger support network than ever. My story had connected dozens of Ashley's victims who now looked out for each other. We established an anti-bullying program that focused on recognizing manipulation tactics and supporting victims. The program grew from our shared trauma into something positive that would help future students. Teachers and administrators, now aware of how they'd missed the signs, actively supported our efforts. Mom discovered a letter while packing Ashley's room for her temporary move. Hidden in a drawer was an apology Ashley had written, but never sent, dated 2 months ago. The letter acknowledged some of her actions and expressed what might have been genuine remorse. Mom debated whether to share it with me, unsure if it would help or hurt. The letter's existence suggested Ashley had moments of clarity about her behavior, even if she couldn't act on them. And as for me, I finally had peace and a future I was excited to build, free from the shadow of her hatred.